Let's go through the practice quiz for 11.1 to 11.2. The first question asks you to identify the graph of the function, and you can use Desmos or a graphing calculator while you're taking this quiz, or when you're actually taking the quiz. So you could just type it in and then see which graph matches. But it's a lot easier if you know what to look for. So the +2 right here is moving this graph up 2. So this graph normally looks like, the graph of y equals e to the x normally looks like this. It's an exponential growth graph with an asymptote on the x-axis. So if it moves up 2, that's going to move that asymptote up 2. So it needs to be a graph that looks like this, that has been moved up 2. So it's definitely not A, not B, not D. You don't even have to think about the fact that it's moved up 2 because C is the only one that has that shape. And you can look at this and see that that asymptote is up 2 dots. I'm sorry. So C is the correct answer on that one. On number 2, same type of problem. This time it's asking you about negative e to the x. The negative is going to flip the graph over the x-axis. So the e to the x graph looks like that. The negative flips it over the x-axis. And then the -2 is going to move it down 2. So the graph that we're really looking for is the one that looks like this, that starts out really close to that line, y equals -2, and then moves down and away from it. So if we look at these shapes, no, this one's kind of close, but it starts away and then goes toward that asymptote. D starts with right along that asymptote and then moves away from the asymptote. That is the correct one. I think on the quiz there's only like one of those questions. Question 3, I'm going to zoom in for this one. 3,500 is invested in a long-term trust with an interest rate of 11% compounded continuously. What is the amount of money in the account after 25 years? Okay, this first formula is for compounded, like monthly, daily, weekly, quarterly. Whatever word they use after compounded tells you what n needs to be. Well, what do you use when it's continuously? When it says continuously, you are using the Pert formula. So we are going to use A equals P, our starting amount, 3,500, times E raised to the rate, 11% as a decimal, is 0.11. If you're struggling with converting percents to decimals, remember that percent literally means out of 100. So 11% means 11 out of 100. If you type that into your calculator, you get 0.11. So 0.11 times the amount of time, 25 years. And you need any kind of calculator for this. You don't need a graphing calculator. You can use any scientific calculator. 3,500. E is directly above your LN button. So find your LN button and do second LN button. 0.11 times 25. 54,749.21. That would be this option. Another problem like that, this time complete the table. So it's going to make you do a couple of problems in one. This one, it actually says in the table n. So that tells you you're going to be using this formula. Annually, for annually, n is going to equal 1. For quarterly, n is going to equal 4. Monthly, n is going to equal 12. So A equals your principal, 2,500, 1 plus this rate. When the rate is 4.25%, that's 4.25 out of 100. That is the decimal, 0.0425. And annually, so divided by 1, raised to the 1 times 10. You need to type that into your calculator. For quarterly, the formula is exactly the same, but this time n is 4. So you put divided by 4 and 4 times 10. For monthly, 2,500, 1 plus 0.0425 over 12 raised to the 12 times 10. When you enter these in your calculator, I'll do the first two with you. 2,500 parentheses 1 plus 0.0425 divided by 1. Close your parentheses, raised to the parentheses 1 times 10. You want to put your exponent in parentheses to make sure that it does the multiplication in those parentheses before it uses that number as an exponent. You should get 3,790.53617. You do need to round correctly, and this quiz will count it incorrect if you do not round correctly. So do we leave this as 53 cents or do we bump this to 54 cents? The 6 after it says that we bump it up to 54 cents. So 37.90, 54. And the dollar sign is already there in the table, so all you have to do is type in the numbers with the decimal point. Don't put any spaces in there. Okay, I want you to try quarterly and monthly on your own. So pause the video, try those in your calculator. I will show them in the calculator in a second. Okay, here's what I typed into my calculator and what I got for each one. So on the quarterly, I got 3,815.412504. Do we leave this as 41 cents or bump it to 42 cents? We leave it as 41 cents. So 3,815.41. Now I set these in EdSite so that if you put a comma after the 3, if you write 3,815.41, it will count that as correct, but it also counts it correct if you just write 3,815.41. So you don't need the comma, but the comma will also count correct. For the monthly, we got 3,821.105964. Do we leave this as 10 cents or do we bump it to 11 cents? We bump it to 11 cents. So $3,821.11. All right, moving on to composition of functions. F of x is x plus 2. G of x is 3x minus 8. They want us to find f of g of x. That means we are taking the f function, which is something plus 2, and we are putting that g of x function inside it. Once you do that, then simplify. We've got 3x minus 8 plus 2. So that is 3x minus 6. And you would type in 3x minus 6. You don't need any sort of math keyboard for this. You're just going to type in 3x minus button 6. Don't use any spaces. So I want you to make note on this. You do not need to put any spaces in your answers. Second part, they're asking for g of f of x. So this time we're taking the g function, which is 3 times something minus 8, and we're putting the f function inside that. We distribute, combine like terms. We've got 3x plus 6 minus 8. That becomes 3x minus 2. If you hear a lot of banging and pounding in the background, my daughter is running around the family room on all fours like a cheetah, because that's normal in my house. Part C, there are two ways to do this. In part C, you could say f of g of, hey, I did f of g of x in part A, so I can use this and just plug that -1 in there. So 3 times -1 is -3. -3 minus 6 is -9. The other way to do this is to start in the middle and do g of -1. So we do 3 times -1 minus 8. -3 minus 8 is -11. And then we would do f of that. So then we would do -11 plus 2, and that would give us our answer of -9. So there are two ways to go about that. You can identify that C is using your answer from part A, or you can just do this step by step. Same thing with D. D is using your answer from B. So you can plug in 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 2 is 4. Or you can do this step by step. Start by doing f of 2. So 2 plus 2 is 4. And then do g of 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 8 is 4. So either way, you can get your answers to that. There's two ways to do part C and part D. Okay, this question has 3 parts. I think I can get through all 3 parts of this. This does involve the math keyboard because there's a square involved. So our f function is x squared plus 5. Our g function is x minus 4. They want us to find f of g of x. So they want us to take the f function, which is something, oops, I need my right color, something squared plus 5, and they want us to put the g function into that. Okay, here's the tricky part with this problem. X minus 4 squared means x minus 4 times x minus 4. Okay, so this part right here is not just x squared minus 16. You can't just square both of them. You have to actually do x minus 4 times itself. And when you multiply x minus 4 times itself, you have to double distribute. So we get x squared. For some reason, my thing keeps moving. Minus 4x minus 4x plus 16. And then we've got the plus 5. So x squared minus 8x plus 21. When you're entering this answer, you would use this, so x, and then to square it, you'd use this thing, and that would move your thing up, your cursor up, and you type in the square. Then you would need to hit the right arrow, either here or on your keyboard, to get out of the exponent. And then you would type in minus 8. You can hit the button, or you can type it in your computer, and then x plus 21. And for the numbers, you can type it in your keyboard, or you can click the buttons on the math calculator, whichever floats your boat. Part B is doing the backwards, g of f of x. So this time we're taking the g function, which is something minus 4, and we're putting that f function, x squared plus 5, inside it. This one doesn't take nearly as much work. It simplifies to x squared plus 1. 5 and -4 combine to give you 1. So to type it in, x, exponent button, type in your square. Then you'll need to hit the right arrow to get out of the exponent, and then type in plus 1. Part C, again, you can use your answers from part A and part B, or you can just do them on your own. I'm going to pick up with this question in the second video. So if you need the answer to this, go to the second video and I'll have the answers there.